Double XL's the breakers for all you aspiring rappers who need a little help getting on. This is the place to get all the info on how to make it in hip-hop from some of the biggest and most experienced names in the game, like me, your dope boy Troy Ave. Pay attention as special guests drop knowledge to help you become a star. This is Double XL's The Break Podcast.
What's up? This is Vanessa Satin from Double XL, Editor-in-Chief. I'm sitting here. We got her back, everybody. We got her back.
Yes, Miranda J. I'm back. I'm so excited.
All right, so we are here a little bit late because we wanted to make sure that we had Miranda for this episode since she had been out for a little while. This episode is networking, how to get to know people in the industry, who you should spend your time getting to know, how important it is to network. For this episode, we speak to New York's A$AP Ferg, caught up with ATL's Rich Homie Quan, and Duck Down's leader, Dru Ha, who is the much experienced New York industry titan who has definitely been through it with a lot of different artists and has some good input on this. So anything you want to say, Miranda?
No, I'm just happy to be back, and we got some really good advice this episode.
Tell them that we want these new artists that are listening to send us some thoughts on what you think of this podcast. Yes. Send us your music, but to xxl@xxlmag.com. Not to Miranda's email or mine or anybody else's, to xxl@xxlmag.com. We want to hear what you think of the show. The podcast. I guess it's not a show. Maybe it is. We want to hear some of your music. Don't go nuts. We're not listening to 14 million songs, but we want to get an idea of what you guys have going on out there, and we're not sure what we're going to do with it yet, but feel free to send. Again, xxl@xxlmag.com, and that's it. So let's go to see what A$AP Ferg has to say about networking.
Fergie.
When you first started to get into the game, how did you go about meeting people? How did you go about establishing relationships? What were some of the ways you found yourself getting out there into this industry?
Well, I just started off where I was from. Like, basically, when it came down to music, I just I let everybody know that was around me, that I was a rapper, so they could support. And then, I then shot a video for Rocky and like all of my friends. We just threw a big party on my birthday, and we put it out. And so much people was in the video that they all wanted to see themselves in the video, so they kept playing it for other people. And, that's kind of how I spread the word.
So that's how you first started getting people to be familiar with who you are?
Yep.
Now, what about making relationships? Was important to you, do you think, early on for you to establish relationships with radio? Was it important to make relationships with producers? When you looked at the industry and decided I wanted to be a rapper, who did you feel was important to kind of get to know that was within your reach to start,
Funk Flex, because I felt like he was one of the biggest DJs in New York, and I felt like if I became good friends with Funk Flex, then, that's kind of that's a good place to be. And
right.
I made it my business to, have a great rapport with him. And DJ Self, because he broke my record, and Rosenberg, Ebros, like all of those guys.
So radio was definitely, you think making those radio relationships and local radio for your city was definitely important?
Definitely, because they're going to hold it down for you as far as your city goes. So, like, once you get the radio behind you, that support is going to look and feel stronger. So I definitely wanted to build a great rapport with those guys. And just as far as radio, showing up to their events, showing love, performing at the local spots, at your local spots in Harlem, doing stuff for your community, making sure your presence is felt. I felt like that helped a lot too. Shooting videos of my community,
right?
Everybody feel involved.
So it was important for you to develop relationships within the city, and then just first. Now, how did you start making relationships and networking and establishing those relationships outside the city?
Well, that's the thing. It's almost like a chain reaction, because once they see everybody supporting within the city, everybody, like monkey see what monkey do. They want to help. They want to help the cause. because you already look big now. Like when I did Work Remix and French came out and Wale came from out of nowhere. He came out and was in the video. And we had Schoolboy Q and Trinidad James and Rocky in the video. It looked huge for me. We did it in Rucker Park because we couldn't fit all of those people in like a studio setting, so we had to do it in a park. And it made it look like a parade.
Right.
For me. And, when people see that, they're like, who is this guy? Like, all right, they're treating him like this, so when he comes to L.A., we have to treat him like this as well.
Right. So now you develop those relationships with those rappers. How you get there and you're with them, how do you then, this sounds dumb, but are you taking all their phone numbers? How do you connect so you develop a relationship with, you're new to all these people, but having the relationship for the future is important. What do you do? Hey, we're going to work together. Like, how do you then develop? Is it natural friendship? Is it like high school? What happens?
See, my whole thing is like, I wasn't in the position just to be like really linking with rappers like that. Like I had to earn my respect, so I wasn't looking for features and stuff like that at first. I wanted to focus on my craft, and I wanted people to want to work with me. So when I finally had a hit on my hands, it kind of was like I wanted to seduce people to want to work with me. I wanted to allure them. I wanted to have a product that they was proud to work with. And that's what happened when I got all of those features on work. When I worked with Schoolboy Q, I went on tour with him. I went on tour with Schoolboy Q, Rocky, and Danny Brown. I wasn't the big guy. I wasn't the big guy that had the will yet. I was still playing the passenger side of Rocky and really like just looking at how everything happens. And then that's when I came out with Work. I had a song, I had a record that everybody liked. And then Schoolboy was like, yo, this record is dope. I told him it's dope. And he got on the remix. He said, that, say no more. And he followed up with his word. And, I think he reached out to, after a while I just knew that I had it. So I had my management reach out to Trinidad James. And, he was cool because he was playing his record early on, like after our shows and stuff, turning it up. And Prince Montana was from the city, so he reached out with his verse done already. So, like, these things sort of come to you if you have good music. Don't want to get anybody on your record off rip. You know what I'm saying? Like, them relationships are going to come to you as long as you have good music. Just focus on your craft.
Right, because artists want to work with people who have good music. It's kind of standing near the flame. It's making something that you being near something that's relevant can almost only make you hotter, right? Or help.
Yeah, don't want to collaborate off rip. You want to establish yourself first. Don't come out as a new artist and be like, oh, I want to get A$AP Ferg on the record because he's hot right now, or I want to get Fetty Wap, or I want to get Travis Scott or Rocky or whatever. Because at the end of the day, that's taking all the attention off of you as an artist, a brand new artist. You have to establish yourself first, and then you will want to get these different people in your music because it enhances the music then. But you don't want to just automatically take all the attention off of you. We want to see what you're doing first. You want to see, as a new artist, what your brand is about, who you are as a person. So get yours off first. Establish yourself, and then all the rest of that stuff will come to you.
But keep the relationships as you go and as you build them and as you cross paths with everybody, because you never know when you might be ready to do something with them or for whatever reason.
Always keep your relationships like, I never really left it up to my management or different people to talk for me or nothing like that. I learned early that a lot of things happen from you speaking yourself. Like a lot of the feedback that I've gotten is because of me. Me talking to the artist. Because every time you go through the management, it make it seem like, oh, it's like you got to go through hell just to get somebody on something when it's not even that hard. And to the artist himself, because y'all might be cool. Like he might think like you think you high to Diddy, and then you thinking they high to Diddy. But if y'all just speak to each other, you're like, damn, this motherfucker cool. Like I should have been working with him.
Right. What about
everybody in the middle? It's everybody in the middle. It's everybody in the middle that's holding everybody up on the pedestal.
Well, there's too many chefs in the kitchen and make everything hard to pull something off when it should be easy.
Exactly.
Right. And that's getting through the bullshit to get to the right people. So for you, what were some of the other people or type of people that were essential for you to meet early on? Were booking agents, or as in your career, what have been valuable? Booking agents, publicists. What about, even us meeting, what do you think what do you think is a good recommendation for people in kind of building those relationships? We spoke to Joey Badass, and I always thought it was an interesting quote that he said about he came in the industry young and he didn't appreciate the relationships he met early on, and he's kind of reestablishing a lot of them, or has been, because he didn't kind of appreciate who he was meeting and crossing paths with early on until he learned how to value everybody more. How do you know who to put in that phone and who you're going to want to talk to later, and who did you go out to set out and establish with, besides the DJs and all that, on the business side?
I think off rip, you need a great lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
So like you need a good lawyer because, artists like me who wear so many different hats. I design, I have a shoe, I'm working with Goldie with denim jeans, and I got albums, royalties, and all of that stuff, and I got my own label. You don't want to have a lawyer to basically hone those things and make sure the deals go through properly, because you could basically be running on a treadmill getting nowhere if you don't have the right people behind you, making sure you get the right money for what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So have a great lawyer. Secondly, I would say, before you have a great lawyer, sometimes a lawyer can help you get a manager. But, so it's either the manager or the lawyer comes first, because your manager is just going to make sure everything is organized and you're delegating powers, so you're not doing everything yourself. I will have to say your booking agent, because when you don't have a hit record, you can still go on the road and make money for the music that you have out. And they'll make sure of that. They'll put you on some tours and they'll keep some money in your pocket. And that's definitely, I feel like that's it for me.
And that team helps you network. So if you've got the right team in place, that's doing a lot of the networking and the relationships for you, because it's about what they're building on your behalf also, right?
Definitely, it helps you network on a whole nother scale, because there's a networking with you and the artist that you have to do to get your music and your art done, but they networking on the whole backside of it, making sure you get in these venues and you're able to perform.
All right, so Miranda, first of all, Ferg's one of the nicest rappers on the planet.
Oh, yes.
We know Waka Flocka is really nice, and we've got a list of a few of them that are some of the nicest people on the planet, but Ferg's one of those dudes. So that in itself works for networking, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So you want to talk to, want to see that person win, if you're good at communicating and keeping those relationships. But what I got out of Ferg, which I thought was pretty interesting, which is something we say over and over, is developing those relationships. Don't always have your hand out. Ask for something. Develop those relationships before you ask for anything. Build yourself up first and start to figure out and meet people, and whether they be other rappers or other producers, but you don't have to go in immediately trying to get everybody on your projects all the time and to kind of waste everything all at once. You kind of cultivate those relationships while you're figuring out the best time to use some of those people. And then other things that he said was what he did early on was made relationships with the DJs in the city. I think we speak to Quan later, who said he did that. Then we speak to Drew Ha, who said that's not that important. So everybody has a different take. But he said getting to know Funkmaster Flex, getting to know the New York City DJs was a really important thing. And I guess it seems obvious, but then again, maybe it isn't, because, the DJs are kind of stars in themselves. What do you think?
I just love the fact that he would highlighted like making those relationships on his own. Like there was no middleman. Like he went and went after Ferg himself. I mean, sorry, Flex himself, and made sure that he developed that relationship on his own, and it's not through the manager or an
Right. Well, that's
assistant.
something that we get different from Quan later.
Yeah.
Is that what you'll hear is that he said that making those relationships be more personable by him keeping in touch with them.
Right.
So it's not having his manager reach out to people. It's not having his boys reach out. It's him keeping the number in the phone, giving
Right.
his phone number out, which was the opposite of Quan. So I don't really know which works.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's different for everyone, and we'll hear why Quan explains that, or Rich Homie. But it is kind of interesting that
Quan
he's
has
saying
different
keep those relationships and remember they're your kind of relationship. You don't want to have any sort of miscommunication because the game of telephone, and now you've got an extra person in the communication that you didn't need because you weren't calling yourself.
Mm-hmm. Things take much longer. Sometimes rappers are quick to answer or quick to do stuff. If you just hit them on the text.
And get a great lawyer. I guess that's more of a business advice, but I guess he felt like that was pretty important for networking because you had to network to find the right lawyer, and then that lawyer plays such a role on your behalf. So it does play a role, but it's also kind of a business piece. But yeah, having the right lawyer is pretty essential, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's catch up with Quan. Let's see, because he was quite similar in a lot of ways to how he went about things as Ferg, but then different at other parts. But I think they kind of complement each other.
I would say networking has been better on because like you got social media now, and it's more like you can promote yourself even if no one wants to promote you. It's all about come up with a strategic plan or whatever you call it. And just try to network to you. Network, make the network. You know what I'm saying?
Who did you find most important for you get to know early on in your career and being in Atlanta? Who did you want to get to know?
What do I want to get to know? I wanted to get to know more like the business side of music opposed to just wanting to have a hit song. Because I see so many one-hit wonders, and I told myself I didn't want to be a one-hit wonder. So I tried to get as much knowledge as I could from a lot of the older cats who have been rapping.
How important was it for you to get to know the DJs in Atlanta or the music scene there? Did you go out of your way to get to know them, or what'd you do?
Oh, yes, the DJs in Atlanta, like, you got to go. You can't just go to, like, emails. They have their events, so I would pull up on them, try to get my music played. Someone would tell me no, but it didn't discourage me. It just made me want to work harder, get back in the studio and, just get my confidence back up, other than that. But it's very important to network with DJs in Atlanta.
So what do you think the challenge is? If you've met a lot of different people in the industry, is there a challenge in keeping connections and keeping relationships up?
Yeah, the hard challenge is answering your phone because, as you get bigger, a lot of people think, oh, he's not fooling with you. But as an artist, your daily plans start changing real fast. So the biggest thing to do is the hardest thing is just keeping your relationship, man, keeping your word. So you can keep your word. Even if I say I'm going to do it today, you might not get it today. But you'll get it tomorrow. So I try to keep my relationships good. If I say I'm going to do something, I try to do it.
So keeping your word is a huge part in these new relationships. I mean, a lot of people can say things very easily, but if you're going to say it, you really should do it.
Of course.
And then how much do you set out and look for certain people that you feel like are essential for you to meet or for your manager to meet? Is it like, you want to know people at a booking agency, or you want to make sure you meet people at a certain label? How do you go about, since, you're an unsigned artist or, not down with a major label, how do you go about making these relationships?
I go about making this relationship only because, like, first, I never give up my number. I always give up my assistant number because there are so many people who want to do this, so many people who say they can do that. So I give him their number, and he's going to already know if it's bullshit or not. If it's bullshit, I'm not going to entertain it. But, like, for a couple of artists, so I try to give them the best advice possible. Like, keep your circle small, get around some dudes who believe in you more than you believe in yourself. You strive for the best, man. And don't let nobody tell you nothing you say and nothing you do.
Have you ever had an experience where you came across somebody in the industry that was important, or somebody just that could help your career, and you didn't handle it right, you didn't speak to them right, you didn't keep in touch with them, but you messed up?
No, I wouldn't say that, but it's definitely been a lot of people I've been, in the studio with, and I wish, like, I could have held my end of the bargain and just, kept the communication level better. Kept the communication level better. I don't want to say any names or anything, but, yeah, it's a couple of people, but it comes with the territory,
What advice could you give to a new artist about them feeling insecure and not feeling comfortable going out and meeting maybe people who could be essential to help their career?
I would just tell them, like, that's something like, you have to take your pride aside, man, because that's something you need. Without relationships in this game, you have nothing. Without relationships, they won't trust you. So if they don't trust you, why spend your music or why waste my time with you? You know what I'm saying? I think that's why I have a lot of good relationships with people because I hold my end of the word despite how tired I am. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it because I've already committed myself to it. Once you commit yourself to it, you got to do it despite how bad you want to do it. As far as DJ drop, the worst. I hate to do it. But the DJ see my music more than anybody. So I got to do it. And it just be the little things that we don't understand coming in. But as we get older, you see how important it is.
Right. I mean, you don't know everything coming in, so you wind up hitting some walls of not knowing how to handle situations or certain relationships, right?
Yes.
What if you're from, you're being from Atlanta, and what if you want to meet someone, across the country, a different part of town? How do you go about initiating that relationship with maybe a DJ in LA or an A&R in New York? How would you reach out personally? Would you have someone in your team? What do you do? Are you too good to reach out?
I see that trying to reach out personally because I know people are busy. No one likes rejection. So 9 times out of 10, I have management. My DJ, because my DJ first, I play DJ, and he has a good relationship with a lot of people. So I'll probably get him trying to reach out for me. Other than that, no, I really don't reach out to people like that.
Anybody, who do you think is for new artists is essential to have relationships with? Lawyers, A&Rs, DJs in different cities, or who do you think for new artists they should focus on building relationships with?
Your lawyer. I would say focus on your lawyer. Your lawyer, because he's going to make sure all your T's are crossed and all your I's are dotted before, you can really try to go network with all these people because you might go try to network with a DJ, but he could be BS. So I really, my lawyers see everything I do before I do it. Make sure, boy, if I'm not doing this right, yes or no. So I might have the best relationship with my lawyer because I talk to him about anything because he helps my money. They don't have my money, but he keeps the money flowing, great revenue. And if it doesn't make sense to him, it ain't gonna make sense to me.
Any last bit of advice you want to give for new artists who are trying to make relationships in the industry and then what they could do to avoid catastrophe or, establish something real?
Like I said, it's like that question me as to where I can say yes, I can say no. Because only because like the approach I took might not be the approach for another artist. Yeah, like what God got for me, what God only has for me. So I can tell what kind of artist it is. You gotta believe, man. Believe. You keep that circle. Believe. That's it. You just believe.
Well, that's a Southern accent for you that we here in New York don't have, but I know what he said. I heard him. And I go back to, I think it's interesting that he felt that his manager and everybody else would be the one who keeps in touch with people, that he didn't give his number directly out, that other people gave their number out and kept in touch. If it works for him, it works for him, but it's interesting that you've got two different rappers with different takes on how to go about things.
It's true, too, because it's like when you're kind of more known in the business, then I would say that's, known but unknown. I would say that's when you go after a rapper and get his number. But when you're really just an obscure artist, it may be better to go after the assistant because those are the people that are going to listen to you versus you hitting up a rapper. They're, they get that way more than the assistant does. So they're, more likely to ignore it.
I think it really is ultimately is who is the contact. Bigger contacts you want to keep for yourself.
Right.
Smaller contacts with people that you might want to keep away from you or not have access you give to the other people around you. It's just how you rank those particular people.
Right.
And as you meet them, are you giving the ones that are important for you in your career and you to develop a relationship the easy access to you, or are you making it harder? And, I guess harder is not even having any contact at all for them. But still, I think that's what it's about, is trying to figure out who to bring close into you, who to keep layers away via management or lawyers or that kind of thing. Which is also what Quan said about, the essential aspect of getting a new lawyer to do that kind of stuff for you. And I think it's because a lawyer speaks lawyer talk sometimes that helps to almost break down what everyone's talking about. You're going in and you're trying to communicate with a record label about some new project and the deal they're offering you, and then you're going to another one. Maybe that lawyer is the one that's going to be able to get you understand the deal better. Understand what their options are, understand what's going on. So there's a lot of different aspects to it. Mm-hmm. All right, so we got with Dru Ha, who I thought was quite interesting.
Yes.
I mean, Dru Ha knows his stuff. So we spoke
really
to him, Mr. Duckdown, about the same topic, and he had a few other thoughts, went a few different directions. So let's hear what he says.
Wanted to talk to you because, in New York is a place where you definitely network as an artist and in the industry, whether you're from it or whether you're not from it. But I figure you could give advice to locals and beyond. So we want to tell rappers why it's important to network and make relationships and get to know people and walk a little through that. So what's your first notes off that?
Well, I mean, I would say and agree with that relationships are everything. It's, you often hear that phrase, who you know, and it couldn't be more true, because a lot of times to get your foot in the door to do something, you've got to know the right person. So getting out and about and trying to meet people, whether you're figuring out who these people are online or from listening to them on the radio, whether it's a DJ or your favorite producer or your favorite artist, if there's a will, there's a way. You got to try to get in front of these people, and when you do, and you can make a meaningful impression on them, then that could lead to a door opening for you. So it never ends, by the way, too. It's like, it's not just for artists trying to get on, then that's going to carry throughout your career of wanting to increase your visibility, wanting to increase your network, wanting to have a bigger Rolodex, per se, like of who you can get on the phone or pull a favor from or be involved with. So networking, it's nonstop, and it's vital to any artist's career.
You have worked with a lot of new artists. Most recently, who are you working with?
I worked from everyone from obviously all the boot camp clique from Buckshot and Smith & Wesson and Sean Price, rest in peace. Those were our core artists, and today we work with Cinematics roster, which includes Joey Badass and Vashti, Mick Jenkins. I work with new artists that we distribute, Young M.A., Nizzy Nice. The list goes on.
So for them, what is your advice, or an artist like them, or even earlier on, what's your advice on who are the first people they should try to develop relationships? How important is getting to know the DJ? How important is getting to know, the personalities, the local rappers? What do you suggest they do first? This is somebody that's new, that's just getting on. We're not talking about somebody so established yet,
Right. I would say in the very, very beginning stages, the DJs are probably not your first, not your first effort, because you're probably not ready for the DJs. Even if you develop and get a great relationship with one of them, it might feel good for the ego, but it probably won't come into play right away. So first and foremost, I think a lot of the blog sites are critical today. Just who might be willing to post your music, who might be willing to do a write-up on you. I think those things will pay more dividends early on. And, it's just like saying where your favorite, what are you reading? Where do you go? Are you going to Double XL? Are you going to All Hip Hop? Are you going to DX? Or, wherever it might be that you're reading, see who's writing that article. A lot of times at the end of an article, you can see who wrote it. And then you can Google that person's name, and you can find them on Twitter, and you can find them on Instagram. And now you can start your approach. See if find out a piece of information of where they might be going to a party, or where they might be attending, and you might just want to show up, or you might want to hit them up on Twitter. And a lot of it is persistence. You don't want to turn into a stalker. That's not the advice that we're giving you. I think your approach on how you network is equally as important, that you're not going to become a turnoff or a nuisance to that person. But if you're serious about what you're doing, then you know that a big part of it is going to be rejection and being able to not get angry about being, potentially rejected or someone not listening to you right away, but figuring out a way that you are going to eventually get through to that person. And it may not be everyone. You might bat 3 for 10, and that's still a good average. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
In baseball, you get, you're batting 300. That's pretty good. So you got to look at it the same way. Like not everything's going to be a win, but you need to keep at it and get those hits where you can.
And how do you cultivate those relationships and keep in touch? I mean, is it as basic as let's change these numbers and I'm going to text you and say hi, I'm going to email you regularly? Is it about figuring out how that person communicates? Is there a texter, they're an Instagrammer? You've got, there's all different formats of having relationships these days. How do you go about figuring out how to communicate with those people once you've established those first-on relationships?
Well, I think you just hit it on the head again. That's it. It's seeing where someone is, what their comfort zone is. You see like a producer like Pete Rock is so, heavily involved in Instagram, or you see guys that are on Twitter a lot, and if you go at them and you say something constructive or you say something that gets their attention and you can get that relationship, then I think that does become the best way to keep in touch with them, is the way that's working. A lot of people don't like picking up the phone these days, so that's going to be a tougher ask. But each person has their own way of doing business and communicating, so I think it is just kind of seeing what their comfort is and how you can fit into that. I think the important part here, though, is it's not always about what they can do for you. You can't constantly be hitting up a person and asking of them if that's a one-way relationship, right? That's what's really in it for the other side. So and it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to say right here on a podcast, but to say like, what is it that you can offer that person? Is it if it's
so you're 100% right. Yeah,
right.
Like how much time it goes back and forth, and it's like, there is an element of looking out for each other. There's an element, of thinking, this person, I could do something nice for this person in this situation, so let me go the extra mile, because that strengthens the relationship.
Right.
Or is it just keeping in mind what's important to them when it comes up? If it's as simple as they really like you to wish them a happy birthday, or their project is out and they really want you to tweak their project, Meek Mill. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's like what's important to that person for you to establish that relationship and keep it in mind. So it takes your memorization. It takes an effort.
Correct, and it takes the strategy of it. I mean, that's another great example you just said. I mean, think if you're going after a writer who's writing for one of these blog sites, and you read an article that you liked, and it's simply retweeting that article, adding that person, and saying, "I really enjoyed this article." That writer, you're probably gonna have hit a soft spot with that writer, because they're going to appreciate
100%.
that you paid attention to their work, and that might have them say thank you, and then from there, boom, maybe there's some dialogue. So, those are ways you can go about it.
And back in the day, and this is 100 years ago, but we had, when Shine was around,
Mm-hmm.
we'd developed relationships with him, on the staff and did stories. And then before he got locked up, after he got locked up, but he would always, this was even before, he would always call and wish Happy Thanksgiving, Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, every holiday. And you'd be like, that shit's weird, and then you look back, and then you'd be like, that shit was really cool.
All right.
It was, not to say that everybody's got to sit there and go down the list of everyone and wish them a happy holiday, but it's almost, over 15 years later, and it's significant in my head of the gentleman's side it was to that artist to reach out and do it,
Right.
And when I was dinner with someone last night, we're like, remember when Sean used to call everybody and wish ha, ha, ha? Like, you think about that. It's corny as it sounds, it can count for something,
And I think to each person that works, that can work either way. I mean, like with you, you're appreciating it and you're looking back on it, and like you said, it kind of struck you as a little weird, but it didn't aggravate you. There might be some people that feel like, is this person trying too hard? Is this not genuine? Is this
right?
Are they just going for the obvious? Sometimes you get those mass texts. I know I do on like certain holidays, and I get the Happy New Year's from people I haven't really heard from in a long time, and I'm not mad at it or aggravated by it, but I am kind of wondering what it was at that moment that made you say that. Maybe you might have more success even if you hit someone on an off holiday or an off day and just say, hey, how's it going today, or hope you have a good Monday, or happy Friday, or something a little less obvious than maybe some of the big holidays. But
I think it's also that it's not always what can you do for me, what can you do for me. If it's going to be that relationship, it should be a two-way. Or do you develop the relationship where you can complement each other on looking out for each other, or you develop, and I think this one's harder, way harder, a genuine relationship where you genuinely are friends with each other. Like it goes outside of just the business associate that you have respect for. You can find those relationships, and you're now exposed to people you never were before, so you never know where you're going to find them. Like I know I have friends that I never thought I'd be friends with before.
Correct. And I think that's important too. Is it's like if you think about your approach of how you're coming at some of these people, it's not I need you to listen to my music, or I need you to do that. Of course you need that. Maybe it's as simple as humbling yourself a little further and saying, I would appreciate you taking the time to listen to this, or this is a little bit of my backstory of why, and I could really use your advice right now as maybe someone a little more experienced in the game, or who's been through it. And if you come in humbly, sometimes that can often get someone's attention too. I'm not saying you don't want to present a sob story or something, but just to come in a little more natural, not saying what you need. That's the obvious too. When I call you, Vanessa, it's like I'm hitting you up. Of course, I'm thinking about like, I want to get one of my artists, on your radar, or I want to get an article or something like that. But I still want to present it to you in a way that's going to work for you.
Right.
So I think people need to, you need to assess
and
it.
And then I know you have a new baby and all that, and then there's a side of you that's beyond just the business, and how is the family, and how is the so-and-so, and all that you've got that relationship that goes beyond just, what can you do for me, or, where it's predictable.
Right.
Where everything is predictable. I'm going to hear from this person at this time for what they want, what I could do for them.
That's dead on. I always find like you kind of catch people off guard if you start a conversation asking them something about themselves, something that you noticed. And in this day and age, you have so much access through Instagram, as long as the person isn't private, to see what they're into. Did they go to a football game? Did they go to a Yankee game, a Knick game? You can almost so when you start the conversation, you can come with something about that one of their interests that's going to most likely get them to respond in a different way. And kids is a great one of, anyone that has kids. It's like if you ask, hey, how are your kids? That's usually, you see the look on a person's face who has kids, that stops everything. They're like, oh, my kid's great, I'm glad you asked. People love to talk about things like that. They like to talk about themselves. So, yeah, those are good strategies to try to create conversation.
Anything else you want to add? Because I think we got more information than I even expected, which is really cool, and touched on areas I didn't think about. Anything else that you want to add about this topic of networking or for new artists in the industry overall?
I just want to, reinforce the part of don't become bitter and don't become angry. Learn how to take rejection. Learn how to take someone not giving you the answer that you were looking for, and using that as motivation to come again and change your strategy or change your approach, or stay at it. And know that it's, a lot of times you hear that it's not personal, it's business, but people are busy and people have their own things that they're concerned with, and you may not be one of them on that particular day. But you should not take that as F him or whatever with him. He didn't want to give me his time. Like, no, you should use that as motivation. As I'm going to come back and I'm going to either show him or get his attention one way or another. So that's really it. People got to do it. Like I said, we continue to network every day.
All right, Miranda, what'd you think of Druha?
I love what he said when he said, if you see a writer and you like their piece, hit them up and tell them that you like that.
Well, you want to hear from them.
It's different. Like if they tell me that they like my piece, I'm way more likely to click on their profile and see who they are versus them saying, "Oh, listen to my mixtape."
Is it a difference between, for you, them retweeting it or them literally thanking you? Does that matter? Not that they have to, but what's for you that you like?
The retweets, I'm most likely not gonna notice, but it's actually them commenting on it, like, letting me know that they read it. It's like, okay, well, maybe I should check out your stuff too. You're taking time to check out mine.
What about if they actually check out something and comment on it and it's not about them? It's about another artist.
Yeah.
Now you have a fan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's interesting because there's a line, I think, when you're networking and developing relationships of stalker, which is what something that Drew Han mentioned is that, and with artists is that you don't want to come off as a stalker because you're trying to get to someone and develop a relationship with them. But then also you don't know if you're getting no feedback, if you're even getting the message to them. So you've got to find that line where it's crazy and you're going hard for it and you're really hustling to try and make those relationships versus you're scaring people off.
Yes.
And I don't really know. You got to kind of just have a sense of that, right?
Yes.
And we've seen that before.
We've seen that plenty of times, and stalkers never prosper.
But I think that Drew touched on that. All of a sudden, I can't talk. That Drew touched on that nobody else did was developing those relationships and understanding that they're going to be there for different reasons. So some you're going to actually develop friendships with down the road, and you're going to never knew that you had that friendship with somebody. Some you're going to develop a just good working relationships where you know how to look out for each other. But it's the unpredictability that I thought was pretty interesting and insane, is that you don't want it to be like, I know I'm going to hear from this person every time they have a project coming out and no other time. So it's, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? And when he's saying, well, pop up and instead of just wish them a Merry Christmas or a Happy Birthday, just see how they're doing in the middle of the week sometime. I think that idea of that is making people believe or think that you care about them, which I think kind of goes back to all we want is we want to be cared about, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like if you feel like you are someone networked with you and you're their contact, you want to feel that they like you for you. That's corny, but that is what it is. And they can see what they can get at from you, but also how they can help you. It shouldn't be such a one-way street. And I think with networking, what we see and with people getting to know each other is the very much is I'm the shit. I'm so fucking cool. You need me more than I need you. And I don't know if that's always the case. Yeah. How much you experience that?
I experienced that a lot. Like people think that that they are the shit typically, and sometimes don't want to answer, more on the, not really on the industry person side, but on the artist side, And I kind of feel like artists have their own little clique of like, they'll answer each other, but when you come to step outside that, maybe you're a writer or whatever, a radio host, they're less likely to be more friendly with you, and you really have to work hard to develop that relationship and make it genuine so that they can come back. Like Rich Homie Quan, like what he said about keeping his word with us, he has such a strong relationship just because of that right there.
Right. When you're dependable, that counts for something. Yeah.
And he's made it genuine, and we love Quan.
Relationships, whether it be romantic, friendship, whatever they are, they all take work.
Right.
And I think the networking side of a rapper thing is very much, what can you do for me? Not what can I do for you?
Yeah.
And what can you do for me? What can I do for you? Could be just asking how you are, just remembering things, just thinking, oh, I've got this project and collaborating with them on it would really be interesting. Or I've got this song and I think they'd really make really do well on it. But when they ask me for a song, I'm not going to take weeks and weeks and weeks to get the verse back to them, or I'm going to give them something that's got some sort of effort in it. I think it's just, and what they've all said, it comes down to respect and respecting the people you're developing these relationships with and going out of their way to find out who they are and what their value is, both professionally and work-wise, and also personally, since you get to know them and you spend a lot of time with these people. And then what Rich Homie Quan hit on was, don't be insecure. You have something to offer here. You have something to offer them. They have something to offer you. Don't be insecure. Think outside of being locked into a certain way or a certain situation. And I think that insecurity issue goes for every topic we're talking about, right?
For sure.
Anything else you want to add?
Yes. Did Shine really used to call you guys every holiday and wish you guys well?
For a few years he did.
Wow.
He would leave messages on some of the voicemails. At that point we didn't have cell phones.
Yeah.
So, it was on our office lines. But I always remember after one of our, shout out to Bonsu Thompson, one of our old staff members, Bonsu, had done the first story on Shine. And then we had done a few other things with him and over the years, and so we started to get happy Hanukkah, happy not anniversary, Merry Christmas, Happy Thanksgiving, and he'd always leave messages for, went on for a year and change or something before we really got locked up. But yeah, he would always do that. I mean, you don't get that now.
Hell no.
No, he would never. But Shine was an anomaly. It was a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
At that time we kind of laughed about it a little bit, but now looking back at it, you're like, that was dope.
Yeah.
You were a cool person for doing that. But at the time, we were like, did you really get that call? Did you just so-and-so? Or we'd listen to the voicemail because he'd leave a voicemail if you didn't answer. So you'd have the voicemail. I wish to this day I would tape those voicemails, or anything like that. But, so yeah, Shine would do that.
Well, that's a lesson for you present-day rappers,
Be Shine. No, I'm
Yes.
just kidding. It's not that. What's it called? But, yeah, so that's it. Next week, we're talking about your presentation, how to talk to people, how you should dress, not specifically, but to keep in mind when meeting people, what the first look looks like, your first impression on somebody, presenting yourself at a show, presenting yourself at a business meeting, all of what that means, how you talk to people, how you look in their eye and shake their hand. What people are expecting from you is to be a certain kind of hype personality. And I think that not everyone understands that. So we're going to check out that kind of presentation thing where we have a good list. Who do we have? We have Kevin Lyles. Got Ferg because he was good on this one. So we're using Ferg, the famed Kevin Lyles. And we got a publicist, Courtney Laurie at Epic, who's going to school us on what the hell all these rappers do wrong. So check that out, but listen to this one first.
Yes. Thank you guys for tuning in. I missed y'all.
This is XXL's The Break Podcast, where new artists come first.